So my question is about nuclear weapons. So the president just withdrew the United States from the INF, and we don't seem to be able to find a solution with North Korea. So my question is, what is your stand on nuclear weapons?
A couple of ideas here. One, at a time that we are $22 trillion in debt and deficit spending to the tune of $1 trillion annually adding to that, debt that was accrued in wars that we've been fighting going back to 1991 in the first invasion of Iraq. 6 successive presidential administrations, we are still there. Afghanistan, Syria, Somalia, Yemen. Those wars cost money. Those countries we rebuild after we've invaded cost money, adds trillions of dollars. Tax cuts, 2 of them in the George W. Bush administration, a $2 trillion tax cut in the Trump administration, the benefits of which flow disproportionately to the wealthiest and to corporations. Why would we then spend more than $1 trillion to modernize our nuclear arsenal at a time that our goal should be to denuclearize this world? Now, I want to make sure that that arsenal's modern, keeps us safe, ensures the national security of the United States and the security of our allies to whom we are treaty bound by the 5th article of the NATO agreement. But I also want to make sure that as fiduciaries of your tax dollars, we're responsible with how we spend that money at a time of record military spending. You mentioned North Korea. Though the president has shared with us that he's fallen in love with Kim Jong-un, a brutal dictator who has the blood of Otto Warmbier on his hands, who tortures and kills and starves his own citizens. He's done nothing to reduce that country's nuclear potential or their capability of delivering a nuclear warhead to this country. So I want to make sure that we have effective negotiations. And to look for an example of that, I go back to the Barack Obama administration. At a time that Iran was racing towards obtaining a nuclear weapon, which can be used against our forces in the Middle East, might be delivered to the continental United States, might be used against our allies, we were peacefully, without firing a shot, without invading, I'm sorry I keep kicking you, without invading another country in the Middle East, we were able to halt their progress towards obtaining a nuclear weapon, and by so doing, halted an arms race that would have seen Saudi Arabia trying to obtain nuclear weapons and other countries and powers in that region. So the pursuit of peace, but an effective pursuit of peace, to contrast the 2 administrations, is what we need. Judicious spending on our armed forces, on our service members who are overseas, and making sure that we don't add to the nuclear proliferation that we see around the world. Our goal should be to reduce the number of nuclear weapons, not increase them. So thank you for the question. Really appreciate that.
I'm here, right?
There you go.
Thank you very much for coming tonight. It's great to hear you. And I just wanted to ask, I'm very concerned about the division in the Democratic Party between the progressive branch and the more establishment moderate branch. And I just want to know what you think you can do to bring the Democratic Party together.
We're really lucky right now that there are, I'm not sure how many candidates running for president, between 13 and 37. And they represent such a wonderful cross-section of not only our party, but of our country in the expertise, the experience, the skills, the life stories that they bring to bear on these challenges and these opportunities. I think that is a good thing. And if we purport to be the world's greatest democracy, then we have the capacity to have these conversations and these debates. We should always do so respectfully, civilly. We may come to different conclusions. It doesn't make us any less of a Democrat or an American, at least in my opinion. You'll never hear me denigrate or demean or vilify someone who's running. I'm grateful that they're running. And we should always remember, I hope, that come summer 2020, we'll all be on the same team, behind the same nominee, whoever she or he is. We'll want them to be successful against President Trump, and we want them to be successful as the next president, ready to go, with our full support. I'll only tell you that this philosophy that I have, that we try to demonstrate in the campaigns that we have run, is to be there for everyone, listen to everyone. It may help explain in the endorsements that I've received so far from my former colleagues in the House. I've got an endorsement from a member of the Blue Dog Caucus, the most conservative Democratic caucus in Congress. I have endorsements from the more moderate caucus, the New Democrats. And I also have an endorsement from the Progressive Caucus. I think we can bridge these differences, define ourselves not by what divides us, but what we want to accomplish together. Many different paths to get to universal health care. Many different paths to get to true criminal justice reform. Many different paths to get to a greater equality of economic opportunity. Let's listen to everyone, because it's going to take all of us, or as many of us as we can get. Let's find the common ground, enlarge it where we can, and invite everyone in to the conversation. So that's the way I'm going to pursue this nomination. It's the way in which I hope to serve. But I tell you, I look forward to the conversation and the debates. I'm thinking that the United States of America has the capacity to have it. It will make us better for doing so. Thank you for the question.
Okay, I'm here. I have time for 2 more questions. They're right
Gotcha.
here.
Okay.
Hi, Beto. I drove 2 hours to come and see you from Massachusetts, and I'm honored to have this chance to ask you a question. I hope to be I hope to go to vet school this year, which is the profession with the highest suicide rate and highest debt to income ratio. And I would like to know what you will do to first undo what Donald Trump is doing to current student loan reform, and how you will make it better.
First of all, thank you for making the drive here. I'm honored that you would do that. Grateful that I have the chance to meet you. Hope to come over and shake your hand at the end of the town hall and the event tonight. One of the things that I learned by listening to the folks who live in New Hampshire and the people who represent the folks who live in New Hampshire is I believe you have the highest level per capita of outstanding student loan debt in the United States of America. There's nothing to cheer about there. Nationally, $1.5 trillion in outstanding student loan debt. I think last year, on average, graduating college seniors had $37,000 on their back that they're going to be paying back. I think this year it's $40,000. So it is climbing. The first thing that we should do is stop digging the hole. Let's make sure that every graduating high school senior is not just college ready, but is career ready. Let's make sure that we make investments that connect with community colleges, where at 18 years old, without taking a dime of debt on, you might be able to graduate with an associate's degree under your belt, or 1 year towards a welding certification. That second year, hooking up with a local union, starting that apprenticeship program. By the time you're a journeyman, you're making 30, 35 bucks. If you're in Texas, you're making 6 figures as a welder. An in-demand, high-skill, high-wage profession that we're not producing enough trained Americans to fill right now. If you are willing to do some public service and you've got that debt on your back already, let's find a way to forgive it. Unfortunately, in the budget that the president just announced, in order to finance this wall with Mexico, that'll cost you only $30 billion, that'll require us to take our fellow Americans' land through eminent domain, their farms, their ranches, their homesteads, because it will not be built on the international boundary line, which is the center channel of the Rio Grande River. It'll be built sometimes miles into the interior on our fellow Americans' property. He's taking resources out of the student loan forgiveness and financing program. Here's the deal. There are 49,000 funded, authorized, unfilled positions at the VA. 49,000. We lose 20 veterans a day, every day, by their own hand. 16 of those 20 were unable or unwilling for whatever reason to go to the VA and see that provider who could literally make the life or death difference for them. If you're wanting to work at that VA in your hometown or a community that needs your intellectual capital and talent, let's forgive that debt that you've accrued. If you're willing to teach school in a community that needs you, kids who need you, let's forgive your debt. If you're willing to invest in a community that is losing talent and young people, let's invest in you. So stop digging the hole. making it easier for people to get an education or a career. Let's make sure that you don't accrue debt by attending a publicly financed 2- or 4-year institution. And then if you already have that debt right now, let's refinance it at a lower rate or forgive it if you're willing to commit to public service. Those are some ideas to make it a little bit better for more people. Thank you for making the drive down.
This is going to be our last question, but if folks want to stay, we're going to do a line by the door.
So Cynthia is saying this will be our last question, but if anybody wants to stay, we'll be over on this side of the hall just to say hello to everyone. If you drove 2 hours, if you live right here, we want to be able to say hello and to thank you for coming out. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Ari. Thank you so much for coming. So a really important issue to many college students is campus sexual assault. And clearly this administration has proven their disinterest in combating this issue. So I just wanted to know what your administration would do to combat campus sexual assault and the adjustments you would make to Title IX to ensure that every victim is heard.
Yep. Great question. So every student on every campus should be assured of their own safety, that they will be treated with respect and with dignity. Every woman, every man. These changes to Title IX make it less likely that we're going to be able to do that. So you ask what I would do. I would restore Title IX to its previous higher standard. I would make sure that the Department of Education plays a role both in the authorizations and the funding to make sure that we have the resources to investigate domestic assaults, violence, and abuse on campus. I would make sure that perpetrators and assailants are held to the highest level of justice and that there is true accountability going forward. Thank you for asking the question. Really appreciate you being here. Thank you all for having us out today. Thank you, Keene State. We are grateful that this is your first stop in New Hampshire. Always remember, we'll see you soon. Thank you all. Thank you.